Welcome back to our Cael language series. Today we're going to continue writing the long essay that we started a few episodes ago. Today's episode will focus on how to use information from the listening source on the Cael test in order to write this essay. So we'll do a very quick review of last week's episode first so that we can add on to the writing today. So we are working in part 4 on the Cael test, which is the long writing section. We have 35 minutes to write the entire essay, and we must use information from both the reading and listening sources on the Cael test when we write this essay. Now, all the information that we write about, though, has to be paraphrased in our own words. We can't copy words and phrases from the reading or listening. There is a word count, so the raters are looking for us to achieve 250 words at least. And there is a word counter right on the screen as you're typing so that you'll know how close you are to achieving that minimum. And you are being scored in this way. The content details that you discuss in your essay, of course, will be evaluated, as well as how well you structure all of that information into proper paragraph form. Your vocabulary will be assessed, so we're hoping for some nice academic vocabulary that also demonstrates a wide range and a variety. And lastly, how well you use information from the source as you're writing will also inform part of your score. So let's take a quick look at the question that we have been working on these last couple of weeks. It says, should scientists go back and reanalyze established conclusions and facts, or should we spend time on new questions and new research instead? So the first thing that we've done is we have to explain our position. So in other words, we need to pick one of these two positions that the test question has given us. So for this essay, we've already decided to write about the importance of revisiting the past before we move ahead to the future with theories. Once we've got that position, we then build our argument. So it's up to you on the Cael test to come up with, I'd say, at least 2 main reasons why you think that your position is valid. And once you've got those reasons, you're going to then provide support. So this is where you're going to go back to both the reading and listening passages and pull out specific examples that will support your main ideas and your position overall. So in our first episode, we created this outline together. So you can see our position is clearly stated at the top, and we've got 2 main reasons why we feel that way. We've numbered them here as main idea 1 and main idea 2. We found 2 specific examples from the reading passage that support our first main idea, and we're also going to look at 2 specific examples from the listening passage this time to support this second main idea. So in our second episode for this series, in part 2, we wrote out the introductory paragraph, which you see here. And then just last week, for part 3, we wrote out this first body paragraph, which is the first main idea. If you've not yet seen these first 3 episodes of this long writing series, I would encourage you to stop this video right now and go back and have a quick look before you continue on with us today. We're going to build on now by writing this second body paragraph, which again focuses on the listening materials specifically. So it's really important to always connect what you're writing about back to your main position. So I've just included that on the top of the screen here in blue. We know that everything we write about needs to show how important it is to revisit the past first and reanalyze those theories before looking ahead to the future. Our main focus of writing for today's paragraph, though, is here right below. We've called it main idea 2. And the whole point of writing this paragraph is to show that it's important to revise any mistakes we find in these past theories to allow us to understand the world much better in which we live. So to start writing this paragraph, it's often a good idea to think about how you're going to connect your main idea back to your position. In order to do that, I think it would be as simple and effective to create a cause and effect relationship. So let's start by restating that main idea 2 and connecting it back to the position at the top. So we might try this approach. We can say, questioning past accounts is important because revising incorrect theories allows us to more accurately understand the world in which we live. So we're going to use this as the first sentence of our paragraph, and we call it the topic sentence because it introduces the one main idea that we're going to discuss throughout this entire paragraph. So once we've stated that topic sentence clearly, it's time to give the examples that you thought about when you created the outline. So here are the two ideas that we've already considered from the listening passages. We've got information about the Oasis theory and the Cohen theory. So let's start with this one. Let's talk about the Oasis theory. Now on the real test itself, remember before you start writing this essay, you already will have finished listening to the academic lecture and answering all sorts of questions about that. So the information should be pretty fresh in your mind as you've just completed it. When it comes time to write the essay though, you can't listen again to the lecture. Instead, what you'll do is you can click on this lecture notes tab at the top of your screen, and the computer will offer you this brief outline of all the main points. And in fact, it was this outline that helped us select these two theories to create the outline ourselves. This is what we want to use to write this paragraph. So again, on the real test, you won't be able to listen to the lecture, but since we're studying together today, it's really important that you all can hear the speaker talk about these two theories so that you understand what they're all about and we can write about them next. So I'm going to play just the small part of the audio that discusses these two theories. And as I'm doing so, if you would like to take some notes at home so you can summarize these ideas, you can compare your notes to my notes that I'll share with you just next. And then again, together, we can use these ideas to write this paragraph. All right, so let's listen now. Take your notes about both the Oasis theory and the Cohen theory. Here we go.
Theories explaining domestication existed throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Some theories are usually not based on evidence or any empirical data. It was once believed that there was some genius out there who decided to domesticate the first animal. For some time, scientists believed that scarce resources would force animals and humans to live closer together, which would in turn foster domestication. For instance, the Oasis theory, developed by Gordon Childe in 1950, states that as the climate became drier in Central Asia, people would concentrate around oasis areas. Scarcity of wild resources prompted cultivation of plants, which in turn attracted animals. The problem with the oasis theory is that domestication did not initially occur in oases, as we now know. Joel Cohen proposed an alternative theory, suggesting that population growth and lack of food prompted people to cultivate plants and domesticate animals. However, the theory does not fully hold because, firstly, it assumes that domestication was intentional, and secondly, domestication is very gradual, meaning it does not provide great benefits in the first generations.
Okay, so again, that's just the part of the audio that discusses both of these theories that we're going to write about next. So again, on the real test, you will never have a transcript for the listening sections, but for today, since we're studying together, I wanted to show you the words that the speaker just talked about. And I've even highlighted in yellow here, the part that talks specifically about the Oasis theory. You can see my notes on the right-hand side. So if you did take notes at home, your notes would probably look a little different than mine, but I'm hoping that you've at least got the same main ideas. So I'll quickly summarize my thoughts and hopefully they match what you've got at home there. So I first wrote down the name of the man who proposed this theory. So his name is Gordon Childe, and this theory was proposed back in 1950. So the gist of it is that as the climate became drier in Asia, more and more people started to grow their own plants right near oasis areas. And an oasis is a water source that crops up in a very dry climate, like a desert. So this theory proposes that as these plants were growing, of course, they're going to attract animals. And this leads into then the domestication of animals. The speaker then tells us, though, that we now know that animal domestication did not start in oases. So in other words, parts of this theory are not fully correct. So that's our first example of the details that we'll be talking about today. So again, here we have our topic sentence that we've already written about, where we're focusing on how it's important to find the mistakes from the past and correct them so we can understand the world in which we live. The notes that we just took on animal domestication are right there at the bottom of the screen. So now it's a matter of taking these ideas that we've outlined in point form and writing them into sentence form above. So here's our first attempt. I'll just read out loud the new sentence we've added, which has been underlined. So it says, the Oasis theory, for example, proposed by Gordon Childe in 1950, provides one explanation for the domestication of animals that we now know is flawed. So when you look at our notes at the bottom of the screen, you can see that we've, of course, introduced the name of the theory as the Oasis theory, and also included the man's name who proposed it and the time. And we've connected this back to the topic of animal domestication. So that first half of our notes has already been discussed here in this one sentence for our paragraph. Now we've just alluded to the fact that there are some problems with this theory. We haven't explained yet what those problems are. We'll do that next. But it's important to mention this now because that's what's connecting back to the topic sentence. The whole point of writing this is to show that it's important to find these mistakes from the past and correct them. So that's what we've done here in this second sentence. Let's continue on now. The next sentence, of course, has to actually summarize what this Oasis theory is all about. So here's what we can try. We've got Childe suggested that people began cultivating plants around oasis areas in Central Asia to survive a dry climate, and the plants eventually attracted animals. Okay, so again, that's just a basic summary of what this theory is all about. And last but not least, we're going to add in that final thought that's really important to explain the problem with this theory. So we have here, modern evidence shows that animal domestication did not begin in oases, however. All right, so we're done with that. And what that means then is if you look at our outline, we've finished discussing that first main example to support our idea. So let's move on to the second specific example. This is all about the Cohen theory. Okay, so here's our transcript again. Again, remember, you won't have a transcript on the real test, but we will use it today as we're trying to identify important details for the writing. So this time you can see the bottom section has been highlighted in yellow. This is the section that talks about the Cohen theory. And you can also see my notes on the right-hand side. So I'm hoping that they're similar, at least in idea, to what you wrote down at home if you did take notes. So to summarize in my own words what this Cohen theory is all about, I understood that more and more people were starting to populate the earth, and as a result, there was less and less food to go around. And this is what led to cultivating plants and eventually animal domestication, according to the Cohen theory. Now, the speaker also points out some weaknesses with this theory. And the first point she makes is that this theory, as it stands, is incorrectly suggesting then that the domestication of animals was intentional. And the speaker says that's most unlikely because we know that this whole process would take such a long time to complete. It would be gradual. So you can imagine how long it would take to even plant a tree and have it grow and then have animals come over and start to domesticate them as well. So in other words, people who were planting these trees didn't set out with the purpose of domesticating animals. So that's the point that the speaker is making with the flaws in this Cohen theory. So at the top of the screen, this is where we left off. This is the final sentence that we wrote about our Oasis theory. And we're just going to continue on. This is the same paragraph because we're just talking about another theory. So that's how we can start. So we've got here, another theory proposed by Joel Cohen suggests that a growing global population and scarcity of food led to the cultivation of plants and the domestication of animals. So all we've done here is we've just summarized the main points of this theory. We've identified it as the Cohen theory, and again, taken our very short notes and written them into sentence form. Now that we understand what the theory is in writing, we have to indicate what was wrong with it. So let's do that next. We can say, this theory is faulty too, because it inaccurately implies that domestication was intentional. On the contrary, it would take generations before plants would grow abundantly enough to attract animals. So domestication was likely not deliberate. Okay, so that sentence there, I guess there's 2 sentences that we've added in. We've now finished off all the details from our own notes. Okay, so we've got enough there that the reader would understand what these theories are about and then what's wrong with them. So this is what we've written so far for this second body paragraph. We have only the concluding statement to add. We're going to add one final sentence that basically summarizes the points that we were making and connects the ideas once again back to our main purpose for writing, which is why it's so important to go back and reanalyze the past to fix these mistakes. So let's try this. We can say, we must therefore revise errors in past theories before initiating new projects to validate the knowledge we construct. Okay, so that's it for the second body paragraph. It's quite long, this one, and I know we went through quite a bit of detail, but it shows you how you can piece by piece take information from the source and use it to build your case. Now, before we finish off for today, once again, let's have a very quick look at the sentence structure and vocabulary. As we know, these things are going to be really important when it comes time to give us a score. So can we make sure that we've got a nice academic vocabulary and that we've not repeated any words or expressions too much in the body paragraph? So I think, as we did last week, let's start by looking at the topic sentence and concluding sentence. The ideas themselves should match, right? You're introducing first your main point up top, and then you're summarizing in the bottom. But we want to make sure that the vocabulary doesn't repeat. So looking just at the 2 phrases that I've highlighted in yellow, in the top we say, questioning past accounts, and in the bottom we say, revise errors in past theories. So these ideas mean the same thing. This is demonstrating my purpose or my position, I guess. I notice I've used the word past in both cases, but I think I'll leave it for now. It's not too repetitive. What I'm more concerned about is this. This is sort of the second half of my thought up top. That's connecting to my position of revising the past. So this yellow phrase here says revising incorrect theories, and in the bottom I've said revise errors in past theories. So I think that's far too repetitive. I've used pretty much the same verb here, just in a slightly different form. And I've also used the word theories twice. So I'm going to rewrite the bottom phrase. I'm going to keep the idea the same. I'm just going to change the language so it's not so repetitive. I can try this instead. I can say modify faulty ideas. So that means the same as revised incorrect theories. So that's a better revision. And I notice I've actually removed the word past from my conclusion, so it no longer repeats what I opened up with in my topic sentence. So overall, this is a very quick and simple revision to make that eliminates this repetition. So that attaches more to my purpose or my position for writing. These blue phrases focus more on the topic sentence of this exact paragraph. So in other words, up top, we've said that the reason we need to revise theories is to allow us to more accurately understand the world in which we live. In the bottom, we've said to validate the knowledge we construct. So those 2 ideas mean the same, and the language is varied. I'm quite happy with the academic structures too. So I'll leave that be for now. I think the topic and the conclusions match, and I think they're okay. Let's do a very quick look at the sentence structure as well, and we can also check for other vocabulary issues if we find them. So remember, we're trying to use a good range of structures and phrases and punctuation and things like that to impress the readers. So my first sentence is indeed a complex sentence structure. So I'm using this conjunction to connect them. I notice that when I continue writing, I'm throwing in transitions like this to help connect these ideas together. And I've got different phrases or different structures, so I'm happy with that. When I continue on to my next thought, I know again, this is a fairly basic conjunction, setting up a compound sentence, but I'm also quite happy with my vocabulary. You know, cultivating plants and eventually attracted animals. The length of my sentence is okay. I think I'll leave it, even though I've got a basic conjunction. It sounds okay to me. And again, under time, I can't spend too much time, I guess, looking at structure. My next sentence is a good one. I've used this higher level conjunction. The word however indicates an opposite, and I've included it at the end of my sentence, correctly following punctuation. So that again changes up my structure. I've got, oops, I do have a little spelling mistake here. Look at that, what I just noticed. Another is spelled incorrectly. So I would fix that, but I'm very happy that I at least have a transition here that leads into the next. And again, I'm using more transitions to connect my ideas together and look at the different types of transitions I'm using. Here I'm saying on the contrary. That means the same as however, but again, it's a different structure and it's a high level one as well. So I'll leave that alone. I quite like my academic vocabulary. This is probably my favorite sentence where I say that the plants would grow abundantly enough and domestication was not deliberate. So academic vocab is great. And again, I've got another higher level conjunction here. I'm using the word therefore correctly. And again, the language here holds. I'm talking about to validate the knowledge we construct. So all of that sounds pretty academic to me. So again, you can see the importance of proofreading our work. We wouldn't have caught that little spelling mistake otherwise. And I think we can confidently say that our structure is varied enough and does demonstrate complexity. So we're going to finish off there for today with the writing. Let's just quickly review what we did for the body paragraphs. So remember, we started this entire process by taking about 3 or 4 minutes just to create that outline and gather the ideas. So refer back to that outline when you're writing. That's what you're going to use to actually write out your topic sentence for your middle paragraphs. The topic sentence for today was all about how we need to fix mistakes in past theories to have a better understanding of our world. That was the focus of this particular paragraph. We should have at least 2 specific and relevant details as well from the source material to back this up. So we decided to focus on those 2 theories that were discussed in the listening passages in order to support our topic. Our ideas will be paraphrased to the best of our ability. Now, clearly, we have to identify the theories by name. We actually said the Oasis theory and the Cohen theory. We can't make those details up. But all the explanations around those theories and how they fit back into our position are coming from our own vocabulary. And that's what we need to do on the Cael test to the best of our ability. Always proofread your work. Always, always. You might be tired, you might be in a rush, and you might make a small mistake that's very easily fixed, like that one spelling mistake that we found today. So double check your writing is as high level as you can get it. Make sure that vocabulary is varied so that you're not repeating yourself. And again, the sentence structure as well should demonstrate some complexity. All right, we're almost finished this essay. It's been a long process, but we're getting there. Next week, we're going to finish it off by writing the concluding paragraph. And then we need to double check that all 4 paragraphs fit together smoothly. See you then.